We are joined now by Doug Wardlow, who is running against Keith Ellison, if you can believe it, to be our next Attorney General for the state of Minnesota. Doug, welcome to the Sue Jeffer Show. You're on the air.
Wonderful to be with you today, John.
Well, how are you doing? Tell us about your campaign. Tell us how you are feeling, and how do you plan to go against Mr. Ellison? And then when we're done with that a bit, we'll talk about hopefully Justice Kavanaugh.
Absolutely. So I'm calling you from the State Fair. We're having a lot of good traffic through our booth here and a lot of enthusiasm. Things are going very well. I think people understand that we need an Attorney General who's not going to play politics with the office, but rather is going to put Minnesota first and do the things that people expect their Attorney General to do. Rebuild the criminal law division of the office, prosecute welfare fraud. There are so many things that have gone undone in that office because the Democrats, who have had the office for 48 years now, have been too busy playing politics with the office to really do the job.
But Doug, don't you think it's the case that Keith Ellison wants to, and I agree with you, of course, don't you think that Keith Ellison represents a new, clear, and present danger to how we understand even a mildly politicized Attorney General's office as we've had under Lori Swanson and her predecessors? Don't you think that he's bringing a completely different vision, a completely different understanding to his role, should we be foolish enough to vote for him?
Well, that's right. He has said expressly on MSNBC that he wants to use the office to lead the resistance against President Trump. So that means he just wants to use the office for entirely political reasons to sue the president over and over, to obstruct his agenda, to go around Congress and the president and to go against the president that way and to fundamentally transform our state using the AG's office and the courts. And that's completely inappropriate. It is a new level of threat to Minnesota and the rule of law, and we really need to take it very seriously. Absolutely.
Well, the attorneys general of, for example, New York and California, some other squishy states, have tried to weaponize themselves and be part of that resistance. What is your understanding? What is your hunch, Doug Wardlow, with respect to what Keith wants to do within Minnesota? I mean, he can join those knuckleheads if he wants in a lawsuit here and a lawsuit there. Okay, that's fine. But what's the real fear from your perspective with respect to Keith Ellison using those powers of AG on fellow Minnesotans whose politics he doesn't agree with? Isn't that the real threat?
That is the real threat, and he will join together with other Democrat attorneys around the country to bring those lawsuits against the president. Keith Ellison has some very extreme far-left positions. They're not positions that Minnesotans support. His values are out of step with Minnesota values. So he's going to try to push his values through the court, his far-left principles and values through the courts, and fundamentally transform our state. He stands for open borders. He was in a May Day parade wearing a T-shirt in Spanish that reads, "I don't believe in borders." He recently said that he thinks that borders in general create an injustice, is how he put it. So it's very difficult to see how a person who doesn't believe in the fundamental concept of borders should be the top law enforcement official of the state. So it's very disturbing what he's trying to do.
Doug, are you getting any pushback from fellow Republicans to tone down your attacks on Keith Ellison?
No, not at all. What I'm hearing actually at the fair, people are coming by and saying, make sure you take the gloves off, make sure you let Minnesotans know the facts about what Keith Ellison is trying to do. It's completely appropriate to reveal the facts about Keith Ellison because Minnesota voters deserve to know exactly what they're dealing with. They need to know that there's a sharp contrast between myself. I'm going to get in there, take the politics out of the office, and stand up for the rule of law. And Keith Ellison wants to use the office for political purposes, wants to wage political warfare from the office, and wants to fundamentally transform our state.
So if I were to say that my understanding was that Congressman Tom Emmer and well-known donor Mike Lindell, my pillow guy, were trying to get your campaign to back off of Ellison, I'd be mistaken?
Well, I haven't heard no one's trying to get me to do that. Absolutely not. But I'm also going out and talking about the positive message of my campaign.
Yes.
And, that simply is that we need an attorney general who is going to take the politics out of the office, an attorney general who's going to prosecute welfare fraud, rebuild the criminal law division, fight human trafficking, really put together a comprehensive strategy to go after the opiate epidemic. There's so much work to be done. So I'm spending the vast majority of my time at the fair and then on the campaign trail talking about what I'm going to do as Attorney General.
Excellent.
But it's also important that people know that Keith Ellison has some plans that are out of step with Minnesota values.
Right. No, that's very much the case. Do you anticipate any debates between yourself and Mr. Ellison, Doug Wardlow?
Well, I have said that I would be willing to debate, and I have not heard that Ellison is willing to do that yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I want to finish up, Doug, and thank you so much for taking time out of your fair appearances, because those are very important. There's nothing more retail than the state fair, whether you like to go or not. It's a bonanza for people who want to meet the voters. What's your assessment of Judge Kavanaugh? Do you think we'll see anything other than sort of prefabricated set pieces of outrage that will get 20 seconds on the news in the 3 days of Senate hearings that are coming up next week after Labor Day?
Well, we expect a typical pushback from Democrats. They had their signs protesting Judge Kavanaugh ready to go with magic markers the day that President Trump announced the names. They could just write in the name of the judge on their protest signs. Didn't matter who it was, right?
Right.
They were just ready to obstruct and block. So they don't really care about the rule of law or the Constitution or any of that. But the good thing is that Judge Kavanaugh is eminently qualified. He's written hundreds of appellate court opinions at the D.C. Circuit, which is really the second highest court in the land, if you will. It's at least viewed that way. And he's just a fantastic jurist, a judge's judge. And what he's going to do is simply interpret the law according to its original meaning, interpret the Constitution according to its original meaning. And he's not going to sit as a legislator on the bench. And that's exactly what we need.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Doug, if people would like more information about your campaign, and if they would like to donate whatever they can afford within their budget, where would you send them, sir?
I would send them to DougWardlowAG.com. That's the website, and they can also take a look at Facebook. On Facebook, it's Doug Wardlow 4AG, but the website is DougWardlowAG.com.
And Doug, what is your Twitter handle in case people would like to follow you on that social medium platform?
Oh, absolutely. It's Doug_Wardlow.
Pretty straightforward. Doug Wardlow, I know that all of Sue Jeffers, as well as Sue herself and yours truly, wish you all the best. I think this race is yours to lose, both on the merits of what you represent and offer Minnesota voters, as well as in striking contrast to Keith Ellison. So all the best to you and your team going forward.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure. Thank you again, Doug, for calling in. That was great. You're listening to the Sue Jeffers Radio Show. I'm John Gilmore in for Sue. Twin Cities News Talk, AM 1130, and TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com.